Okay.
Okay, I'd like to call to order our meeting. This is February. Sorry, I'm looking at my January one. February 11th, right? 2026. February 12th, 2026. So first with roll call, we have Stephanie Vela. Did you
Here.
say it right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay, and Steve
Here.
Christensen and Brian Lee and Tim Hauser.
Here.
And I'm Christy Santo Domingo. Was it you, Rose?
No, I'm just
Okay.
staff liaison.
Okay. And then with land acknowledgement. Oh no, first we're gonna go around and introduce ourselves right there or after
Sure.
land acknowledgement.
Yeah, we can do that. I was thinking maybe we'll wait until
Okay,
Swan
okay,
and
we'll
is
wait.
on, just since they're running
Okay.
a couple minutes late.
Okay.
But we can start with approving the minutes. We can do the agenda, and then the land acknowledgement statement.
Okay. So next up, I'm gonna do this order, the land acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Okay. So our land acknowledgement statement. Our land acknowledgement is a statement we read to recognize Indigenous peoples who are the original stewards of the lands on which we now live, work, and recreate. The city is a proud partner of the Snoqualmie tribe, and the commission feels it is important to recognize the history and connection tribes have always had to these lands. Therefore, we will now read our statement. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. Thank you. Okay, so next we're going to approve our agenda. And we're going to first make a motion to add our sustainability orientation to our agenda. So would anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda? And add that first to it, right? So make a motion to add the sustainability orientation.
I move that we add the sustainability orientation.
I will second.
Wonderful. So, anyone opposed?
There you go.
No one's
No.
opposed? Okay, so passed by common consent. All right, and so now we are going to approve the agenda as it is, including that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go ahead and approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve it, including the sustainability orientation?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Seconded.
Wonderful. So anyone opposed? All right, so passed by common consent. Hello. Okay, so now we're gonna approve the minutes. So does everybody see in their pack? Oh, did you print it? The packet had the minutes from last month, the January minutes. Did everyone want to look at that really quick? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda from last month?
I motion to approve these meetings from last meeting.
All right.
Minutes from last meeting.
Wonderful. Okay. Anyone opposed? All right, then passed by common consent. All right. So do we have public comments?
We have one individual who registered in advance. Mary, are you online? We'll go ahead and promote you to a panelist. And whenever you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks, Mary.
Hi, this is Mary Wichter. I've lived in Sammamish for 25 years. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. So there was news today that I heard from Associated Press that the government administration on Thursday, today I believe, revoked a scientific finding that has long been the central basis for U.S. action to regulate greenhouse gas emissions and fight climate change. The rule finalized takes the EPA's, the Environmental Protection Agency, which rescinds a 2009 government declaration known as the endangerment finding that determined that carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases threaten public health and welfare. This is the legal underpinning of nearly all the climate regulations and Clean Air Act for motor vehicles, power plants, and other pollution sources that are heating the planet. So I was not happy to hear that today. I learned it through my husband, who's the news hound. He reads news worldwide, I think, every single day. So I just wanted to bring that up because I believe in the city of Sammamish, we have enough people that like the environment and want to do well with it, that just locally we could keep up with trying to get greenhouse gases more under control as we move on in the future. Also, as you know, the elections last November have provided for different faces on the city council, and I know that people were seated from the Sustainability Commission too. So what I would say is you guys have done a lot of work, really good work, and that there are rules and regulations and suggestions and programs and approaches to reducing climate change. And I think one of those might, or some of those might actually be related to town center. If we either don't develop town center and we develop more widely across the city, it actually is bad for the climate. It's bad for the water. It's bad for stormwater. It's bad for the wildlife. Whereas if we take and do density where it's more densified, and stacked units, then we get people crowded around shorter pipes and shorter roads that don't cost so much. And so having a higher density in town center and other centers is actually really good for us to do. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. I just sent two of my um, prior public comments to the City Council and Planning Commission, where other places have studied that, and there's very good data on that. And I know that you guys are just such a good commission, and that you have information that maybe sharing some of that information up to City Council and the Planning Commission would be important to do. So I'm just speaking that way. It's what I see as a person. I have been going to meetings for the Water and Sewer District for over 10 years, and I started a public speaking, trying to get things run better and problems addressed. St. Patrick's Day of 2015 was the first time I spoke. So I hope some of this makes sense to you and that you might feel free to act on it. The other thing that I have spoken on several times is uh, control for noxious weeds, and the city's spending over $10 million on the George Davis Creek area, which I agree with for salmon. But if you don't do the noxious weeds up at the top of the hill, which are in the Barrington stormwater pond that can go down to the headwaters of George Davis Creek, you'll find that things like tansy ragwort the seeds and plants will wash all the way down. So I think that does need to get handled, particularly for that area if you're not approaching anything else in the city. So that's my 3 minutes. I will let you move on with your meeting. I'll try to listen remotely and appreciate your time. And sorry for what I consider to be not really great stellar news today. Personally, thanks.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're moving into the sustainability orientation.
Yes. I'll go ahead and share my screen here.
Do we need to comment or address or anything from the public?
Typically, it's best practice not to respond directly to public comment, just giving everyone an equal chance to speak and be heard. If the commission feels that there are specific questions or follow-up that they want to address from the public comment at a future meeting, we can definitely add a agenda item.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. But I do think, just to go a little bit more in depth, Ms. On for, federal legislature, state legislature, I think a lot of that will come up as we talk about the climate action plan and the greenhouse gas emissions inventory, which we're planning to go over a little bit more in depth at the March meeting. So
Actually, to interrupt you.
yeah.
I forgot we were gonna go around and introduce ourselves because we have our fabulous new commissioner.
Thank you. Yes.
And also Swan is reappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Reappointed. So I think we're gonna go around and just take 1 minute and say our name and when we joined and what else? A favorite thing we've done with the commission
Sure.
or why we joined it? I don't know. Do you want to start?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Steve Christensen. Joined when they started it. When was that? 2 years ago?
2024. Yeah.
Yeah, moving right along. I suppose my reason for joining it is I followed a lot of the activities that the city was going through in just developing the climate action plan. I got on the can never get this straight, community
Advisory.
advisor group, thank you. To help write that, Brightworks, the consultant wrote it. That group, made a lot of comments, went through several iterations. And then they started this committee, so I applied and, I probably have the label of the heat pump.
Oh,
promoter,
yes.
yeah.
Nice. Okay, Brian, did you want to share?
I'm Brian Lee. I joined like a few months back, and I really like participating at the events that we did. And through this commission, I was able to like get to know Peter and the sustainability ambassador, so I could further like my impact.
Thank you. And you are
Tesla status.
just last time.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Thank you. Mizan Rashid, and I'm a civil environmental engineer. So I work in climate change, habitat restorations, salmon restoration, and all this sustainability. This is my area of my work. So that's why I felt that this is something that I may be able to contribute to my city. So so I joined. And honestly, what Mary was saying, I really understand the bigger landscape of what she's saying and why what is our government is doing about it.
Mhm.
So I'm just keeping it quiet.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Tim Hauser. I've also been on this committee since it started. So Steve and I joined together. But I was not part of the committee action plan ahead of that. He's got to be there. I work at Amazon and part of the worldwide sustainability tech team. And my role is to build tools that help Amazon understand where we're going to be emitting carbon in 2040 and what we can do to change that so we can hit our climate pledge goal and help lead on decarbonizing while still delivering for our customers. And yeah, that's who I am.
And I'm Christy Santodomingo, and I am a teacher, a longtime teacher in the Sequoia School District. I teach science. And I joined because mostly I care deeply about climate, and I knew we had a climate action plan, and I wanted to be able to bring back what I learned here to my students to help get them more involved in the community and to know that they can make a difference.
No, that's very good.
Yes, and then Swan, we have our new commissioner here.
Yes.
So we're going around and just taking 1 minute to say something about you and why you wanted to join.
All right. Should I go now?
Sure.
All right. I'm Swan Jacobson. I don't have like a super I've talked a bit about the things that I want to do as a part of this, but it's sustainability related things and initiatives around that are things that I've been involved with to various degrees for a long time, since high school with the green team that we started. And this seemed like a really good opportunity to be a little bit more involved with the community, get to know more people, and have a more clear path for ways that I could take action to help people improve things.
Nice. And then did you want to tell us about you? Because we all recognize her, right? She was a sustainability ambassador. So do you want to share what?
Yeah,
What
I
you
would
want
love to. Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet all of you. Thank you so much for the awesome introductions. I see some familiar faces, and some of you I still have to get to know, and I'm so excited to just work with all of you. I think this is an awesome team, and I've been watching what you guys have been working on for a little while, so I'm super excited to be here and able to participate. I joined because I really care about our city and the decisions that are made here, and especially about our environment and our wildlife. I think we have a lot of really special things in that regard in our city, and yeah, we should work to advance sustainability. I'm excited.
Yeah. And did you want to mention what you're studying?
Oh,
Which
yes.
is really cool.
Thank you, Christy. Yeah, I am a first year environmental science student at the University of Washington. And it's just been amazing to learn about so many things, environmental studies, wildlife, and I'm excited to bring that knowledge that I have and I'm still developing to these meetings.
Thank you.
Yay.
I have some friends who went through that program as well.
So cool.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks everyone. We're excited to have a new face on the commission, and I know most of you have already received this presentation, but this is an annual thing that we will be doing, running through just kind of the structure of the city. There we go. Running through just some friendly reminders, requirements, what it means to be on a commission and how you fit into the broader city. So just to level set, all commissions do receive this presentation towards the beginning of every year. Just as a reminder, this is also available as a resource. It'll be linked in the agenda. And if you have any follow-up questions, you know where to find me. Feel free to send them via email. We can include questions and answers in that Q&A matrix. And yeah, feel free to stop me while we go through if you have questions. Starting with an updated org chart. So we do have some new council members, a new mayor, Josh Amato, as well as a deputy mayor, Debbie Treen. Council members Amy Lamb, Kent Treen, Pamela Stewart, and Rashino Farrell are all returning. And then we have another new council member, Michael Boyer. So they've had a couple meetings already. The new folks are getting up to speed on city programs. I anticipate presenting to them in the next couple months with a sustainability program update that you all will be receiving as well. Likely at the March meeting for sustainability, and then to be determined. Gotta slot us in with all of the other council priorities. We have a number of different commissions that help serve and advise council and serve the community, including the Arts Commission, the Beaver Lake Management District, Human Services, the Planning Commission, which is a commission that is a requirement. All cities have a planning commission, the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Sustainability Commission, and then the Youth Board, of which Brian is our Sammamish Youth Board representative. There are youth board representatives on each of the boards and commissions to provide the youth voice and representation of our community. Sammamish is a city manager form of government. So this means that the residents of Sammamish elect their city council, and then the city council amongst themselves elects a mayor and deputy mayor, and then hires the city manager. So the city manager is the one staff member that is hired by the city council and who manages the rest of the staff across our 7 departments, including administrative services, community development, finance, IT, legal, which is actually a contracted department, parks and recreation, and then public works. The city contracts out for many of our services. This is not necessarily unique to Sammamish, but we do contract out fire, police, and then criminal justice services. And our city hall, we actually share with some office space for the King County Sheriff's Office. So that's really great to have those folks so nearby. And then my position, the Natural Resource and Environmental Sustainability Coordinator, sits in the city manager's office. So myself and the Human Services Coordinator are not listed there under city manager, but we're the 2 additional positions that support the city manager, the deputy city manager, comms manager, and work closely with the supervising management analyst, Mike Stugg, as well. We're a relatively lean staff for 65,000, or actually I believe we're up to 68,000 residents as of last year, with just about 140 full-time staff. And this includes a number of our maintenance staff. And then we do contract out some services as well, landscaping, tree removal, etc. Any questions on city organization? Yeah.
Just a quick one, because I was at the council retreat, and I like not as judging or anything, but I noticed that sustainability, like, you weren't there when they were doing the staff circle, like gathering anything for that. Just curious if there's any particular reason for that, or just that's how it ended up working out.
Yeah. My communications with the deputy city manager, so I directly report to the deputy city manager. So just in the interest of not having too many cooks in the kitchen and staff members, because I work closely with Rachel, she's aware of the programming, our progress, the different priorities that we have, the budget that we manage. So it was a little bit redundant to have me there as well. But it's a great question.
For you to check. Yeah, no,
absolutely. There are some cities that do have like a sustainability program manager, but oftentimes those do actually sit within, for example, community development or parks and recreation. So the reason I'm in the city manager's office is to give a little bit more flexibility across departments, but I actually don't manage a team. So, yeah, good question though. That's great that you attended the retreat. I heard that you were there.
Wasn't able to stay the whole time, but once the video is up, I'm gonna be watching through the rest of it.
Yeah, if there's anything that you want to share as key takeaways from the retreat or just with the rest of the
I drew the
commitment.
thing for later for like when we do reports.
Perfect.
But that'll be for later.
And
Great.
the video is up.
Fantastic. I will be watching that tomorrow then.
Perfect.
I'm busy tonight.
Yeah, so for those of you that aren't aware, our city council does have an annual retreat, typically happens in early February. They take a full Saturday. It's not actually an overnight retreat. It's like a 1-day, 8-hour retreat. They work with a third-party consultant to set work plan priorities, get to know each other, understand different policy priorities and department structures. It's especially useful for the newer council members who might not be as familiar with certain forms of government or, work that is within the city's purview. So that really sets the stage for our work plan, budgeting, and city priorities from that council retreat. So if you're ever interested and want to go watch that recording, I believe it was 8 hours on February 7th.
The recording itself isn't that long. It's only the second half was recorded.
Oh, okay.
It's 11 to 4:30-ish. I think
Yeah.
they ended.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll hear more about that from Swan a little bit later. Any other questions regarding the city organization? Okay, great. Okay, so as I mentioned, we do contract a number of our services, including solid waste and our legal services. So, recognizing that these are groups that the city works closely with, but have their own management structure and staff as well. So there's also some services available to our community, which again, the city partners closely with, sometimes have shared events, information sharing, including the King County Library System just across the plaza there. Multiple school districts do span Sammamish. We have our water and sewer utilities in addition to solid waste, our electric and gas utilities, and then various internet providers as well. So coordinating with all these groups, is definitely something that our staff are working on and always appreciate city feedback on as well.
So Rose, any reason that for the internet broadband, it's a side question that we don't have Ziply in Sammamish. Any reason for not having that cable?
I do believe Ziply is actually working currently. I know there's a couple permits in that they're working with our public works department on. So my understanding is that Ziply is actually working to install some cables in Sammamish.
Okay, that will be good.
Yeah.
Because I used to use them a long time and then they're not in Sammamish.
Mm.
So that's a good news.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the timeline is for that work, but I have heard them mentioned. So
I've heard that come up before as well.
yeah.
I'm surprised to see Snoqualmie Valley School District in Sammamish.
It's like a very tiny chunk in the
Small part.
It's in like the northwest. It's like a very tiny chunk.
Wow.
Mhm.
Just happened to I think it's just happened to overlap as like borders change.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I had no idea.
I think part of that is just when Sammamish was incorporated as a city. So
Interesting.
Sammamish was unincorporated King County up until 1999. And so a lot of these school district boundaries were actually set before Sammamish was officially
Oh,
incorporated.
interesting.
Yeah. Some interesting history there. Okay, you all are aware of this, when we meet, what we work on. Just a friendly reminder that we will be working on a climate action plan update starting in 2027. And before that, later this year, we'll be working on an urban forest management plan update. And then the comprehensive plan was recently adopted by council, but we do have some additional requirements the city has to meet for our comprehensive plan by 2029. So we will be revisiting that in future years. As a reminder, commissions are advisory bodies to the city council. So you are the voice of the community on, in this case, sustainability related items, topics, concerns, issues, wins, some of our programming, helping to change hearts and minds across the community, recognizing that you are appointed and an advisory group to council. So we do structure our meetings based on the council approved work plan. That was what they were meeting to talk through with their retreat. And ultimately, your recommendations are taken to council for decision points or policy changes. So you don't actually have an official budget for the commission, but the sustainability program does have a budget that you all provide feedback and recommendations And then, as I mentioned, we're a city manager form of government. So ultimately, I report to the deputy city manager, who reports to the city manager, who implements council's work plan. There are a lot of benefits to being on the commission. You get to engage with the community. You get to review some of these policies and plans in advance, get a better understanding of the government, how we serve our community, the important work that we do. And then, of course, you know, helping to further the city's climate and sustainability goals. As a one-person team, it's hugely important and helpful for me to have you all as a sounding board for different projects, activities, and then of course for community outreach to really broaden our impact. Just some reminders of the best practices of being a commissioner member. Definitely encourage you all to utilize that question and answer matrix. We encourage all voices to be heard. So there might be certain areas or projects that you have more experience or feedback on, which is great. We want to hear all of your feedback and opinions, and recognize that everyone should get a chance to speak, and all voices are important, even when sometimes you have to come to a group consensus. Absolutely serving the public as the top priority. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but making sure that we're adhering to the Open Public Meetings Act and keeping track of our records to be in compliance with public records requirements. Speaking of open public meetings, we are currently in an open public meeting. Our regular committee meetings do fall under this. So as the governing body, that is all of you as the commission. And something to note is that while this is clearly a pre-scheduled open recorded meeting, there are a lot of different situations that could potentially be considered a meeting. So one of the things to note is that Sammamish does have very transparent, open sunshine laws, as they're called. So we do record, provide meeting minutes, and then I'll get to this in the next slide. But the term meeting applies broadly, and this is great. It's important to consider. Especially with email communication, some of the outreach that we do. If there's more than 4 commissioners meeting, you do have a quorum. So that is the majority with a commission of 7 with 1 youth board member that, unfortunately, Brian, you don't count towards that quorum. So we do have to have at least 4 folks present to really hold a meeting. If there are too many folks absent, the meeting would be canceled. And then for outreach, if there are more than 4 commissioners present, we do notice that. So Earth Day is a good example where we often have a lot of city council members attend, different commissions attend, you all, the Parks Commission. And so we do notice that to the public and let them know that it's technically a meeting. There might be commission business discussed. But no official action can occur typically at those because they were not a pre-scheduled kind of Robert's Rules meeting. So again, discussions, considerations, deliberations, all of that under a meeting would count as an action. So just something to keep in mind when we're tabling, when we're at these events. You know, it's good to have discussions about sustainability, but we shouldn't be making decisions unless we're in that official meeting capacity. Okay. So there are some penalties. We've never seen anyone get any of these penalties because we're very proactive. This is part of the reason we do this every year. But there are also some really tangible benefits. It's not only we're just trying to scare everyone into doing the right thing. It's also because it gives us a better level of customer service for the public. It allows the public to know what is being talked about, what is being worked on. And what the decisions are, starting as early as a sustainability discussion all the way to the adoption of the comprehensive plan by council. Any questions on the OPMA before I move on? I think the main one that applies to you all is just that reply all for emails. That's part of the reason we do have the Q&A matrix, is so that if you have questions, you can reach out to me directly, and then I will kind of do that one-way communication to the rest of the commission. you all are experts at this point, and it's the reason we have a staff liaison, a great city clerk's office, really trying to keep everything, cross our T's and dot our I's. So related to the Open Public Meetings Act, we also have some requirements around records management and public records. The Public Records Act requires that all public records are made available to members of the public. This is the reason we have our agendas posted on the Civic web portal, including our agenda attachments, so that the public has access to all of the documentation, notes, information that you all have access to as well. Please keep in mind, this is not just email communication. This is also text messages, photos that you may have of commission business. It basically documents in any format, even written notes, theoretically could be subject to a public records request. So just please keep hold of those, take note of what you're writing down, and if you can on your iPads, keep things relatively organized. One thing to note is that our email servers do have backup. So there is a copy of all of your emails, communications, and the clerks have access to this. Sometimes a public records request will come through and the clerk will comb through emails, and you might not even know that a public records request has occurred because the clerk's office has the ability to just sift through, sort, and pull the relevant records. So anything that you put in an email related to commission business will have any other information. A good example is if you're running late to a meeting and there's a really personal reason why you're running late, maybe don't put that in an email because it might be out there if there's a related public records request. So trying to keep personal business and city business separate to protect your own privacy and autonomy as well. One thing to note is if you are doing commission business on your personal laptop or cell phone, it would be great to keep that as a separate folder. This is the reason we give you iPads, so that you can keep all of your commission business on that one device. If you're logging into your email on your computer, that's different because we have access to those email servers, but downloading agendas, items like that, we really recommend that you use your iPad in those moments. Okay, public records request. There's a page on the city website where you can make a public records request and view prior requests. Typically, the city clerk will go through and, like I mentioned, kind of automatically fulfill and do a public records search across city servers. But in the case that there might be additional records or it's a very broad records request, you may receive an email from the city clerk requesting you do a search for any potential responsive records. And if that happens, this is something that is ultimately the responsibility of each of you as individuals. But if you have questions, I am here to support. The clerk's office is here to support. We want to make this as easy and streamlined as possible. It's not something to worry too much about, as long as you are doing your due diligence to keep things organized and to not delete really anything. Again, as with the Open Public Meetings Act, there are consequences. We very rarely see this. Really, it would have to be a pretty egregious situation. And there are a lot of benefits to this. So, keeping a public records system, like I mentioned on the back end, that is easy to streamline, search. It allows us to provide better customer service to the public. And fulfill those records requests in a timely manner. So just a reminder, public records are ultimately the property of the public and retained by the city, or we are the custodian, if you will. And it's important for you to be aware of this because it does apply to your role as a commissioner. Just another reminder about city business. This is a good example that I had brought up earlier. This applies to city staff just as it does to commissioners as well as city council. So just a friendly reminder to use your iPads and you won't have to worry about it. There are certain records that are exempt, but that is up to the city clerk and our legal team to identify. So typically what will happen in a public records request is all relevant records are gathered by the city clerk's office, and then they will work to redact any information that is highly sensitive, and the legal team will typically advise as well. General rule to keep in mind, if you don't want everyone to see it, don't create it as it relates to city business. Okay, I think I've probably gone over all of this, so we'll just give you a second to read these. It's a great summary. If you're ever unsure, again, this presentation will be linked in the meeting agenda. Yeah, just kind of shows the process about exemptions and a reminder about personal devices. Okay, I thought there was a question slide, but any questions? Great. One last thing to note, if you ever do get a inquiry from the city clerk or myself asking for you to provide public records, typically there's a public records declaration form that you just fill out saying, yes, I searched my devices. No, I don't have any records. Or yes, I searched my devices. Please see attached records. And that is a way for you to legally cover yourself and for the city to make sure that we are doing our due diligence. So I don't believe that has happened since the start of the commission, but you never know, and it's good to be aware of that process if it ever does come up. Okay. Thank you all for your patience while I ran through that. I think that was probably record time. Again, you all are providing a huge service to the city by volunteering your time to be on the commission. So if at any point you feel uncomfortable or unsure with any of this, please come to us and we are here to support you. All right.
Very good.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. So next up on the agenda is our Earth Day brainstorm session. Earth Day with the city of Sammamish is celebrated on April 25th at Beaver Lake Park. And so now we're doing some sustainability activity planning. And so I'm going to share just a little bit about it before we start the brainstorming. So our commission can have up to 2 booths at this event. And we will be discussing what we'd like to have at those booths in terms of prizes, raffles, and activities, how we would like to involve the sustainability ambassadors, and how we would like to engage the community regarding Puget Sound Energy's Green Power campaign, which is a little tricky because Puget Sound Energy is coming in March to speak to us about this. But I'm going to tell you what it is. So for those who don't know, and you tell me, you add to this, okay? So Puget Sound Energy subscription to purchase renewable energy on our behalf. So they're coming in March to talk about this, but it's by participating, customers reduce their carbon footprint and help grow demand for clean, locally generated renewable energy. So do you want to say more about it?
Sure, yeah.
Had the talk yet?
Absolutely, yeah. And like I mentioned, Puget Sound Energy will be here to answer any specific questions that you might have related to this program. The city has had a minimum level of enrollment for the past couple of years, a baseline of, I believe, 1 million kilowatt hours of energy is what we were offsetting being kind of a loose term here because the city is really trying to reduce our emissions through tangible actions, not just the offsets, but what we're doing with green power is supporting renewable energy locally and helping PSC meet their goals. So as of 2025, we did use some of our sustainability funds to fully enroll all city facilities in green power to really take that first step before asking residents to do the same. So putting our money where our mouth is, if you will. And now that we've taken that first step, we're working with Puget Sound Energy to try to get an additional 100 enrollments over the course of this year. And if we reach our goal, Puget Sound Energy is awarding the city with $10,000 towards a solar array. So it's a pretty huge incentive to reach this goal. Folks can enroll in green power for as low as $4 a month added to their energy bills, up to fully offsetting their energy. Not only do green power enrollments count, but community solar enrollments count towards that 100 goal as well. Recognizing how many folks attend Earth Day, that a lot of our community who is attending Earth Day feels very strongly about the environment and wants to take tangible actions. We need to find a way to communicate and encourage the community to enroll in this program without feeling like we are, being too overbearing, or recognizing that sometimes folks don't want to spend extra money. So what are other options in addition to signing up for green power? So we don't want that to be the only option, but we do want to share that information and encourage them to sign up to get that solar array for the city, which will ultimately benefit our residents as well.
I have a question. You said 1,000,000 kilowatt hours?
Yes.
That's just the city usage?
City usage.
Over what period of time?
1 year.
Okay. So 120,000, roughly 80,000 kilowatt hours a month?
Yes, and I have the actual breakdowns, which we'll go over in March. The main reason we're talking about Earth Day right now is I definitely heard you all at our last meeting talking about outreach, wanting to plan a little bit more in advance for Earth Day. Recognizing that our March agenda is getting a little bit full, I felt that now would be a good time to really figure out how I can best support you all, who's planning to attend, and what we want to focus on in terms of our prioritization, because the climate action plan does have a number of sections: water, natural resource, buildings and energy, transportation. And the reality is that we cannot do all of those in the same day at our booth. So figuring out what we want to prioritize, what that messaging might look like, and how to better engage the community.
So, okay, so I still don't quite get it. So let's say I pay my bill, am I like donating $4 to them? Is that what we're essentially doing? Donating $4 to so they have money to do green energy?
That's one way to think about it.
Okay.
I think PSC is probably better equipped to speak to this, but my understanding is that it's basically you supporting. So Puget Sound Energy gets their mix from a lot of different sources. And so by you enrolling in green power, you're saying, please prioritize renewable energy for my power bill.
Yeah, I think what you're doing, Christy, is you're forcing PSC to buy renewable energy instead of fossil fuel burned energy.
And I'm forcing them to do that by donating $4.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're like encouraging them, saying, "Here's $4."
Well, yeah,
It's not-
I can understand. It's kind
Is
of
donating the right word?
No, it's
What's the right
you
word?
don't donate it. When you give them that money, they're required to go purchase as
And they're
much.
gonna use it for
money.
us, back to us.
Yeah, it goes into our,
Okay.
the electrons in your house, they
Okay,
don't know where it came from.
why don't
Nobody
they
knows
do
where it
that
came from.
anyway?
Because
it's more expensive.
Puget Sound Energy is trying to find the cheapest possible,
I
but
see.
also clean. So their sources are getting cleaner, but it's not 100% renewable.
So they, by putting your money into this, you're encouraging them, you're saying,
You
we
are.
want this.
You're not encouraging them. You're saying, I am paying you to make sure that all of the energy that I use, that I'm paying for, so because you buy shares, basically, like 50% of my usage needs to be clean energy, 100% whatever.
It's almost like a reverse carbon credit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you get to say, I want you to purchase, like, I was just looking at my bill because I do this, right?
Yeah,
So let me
tell
walk
us,
through it.
tell us.
So my house used 1,380 kilowatts of energy last billing cycle, whatever that was, right? And I do the full green power offset, and it cost me $13. But then they went out and made sure that they purchased at least, like, if no one else participated in the program, they would have gone out and made sure that at least 1,383 kilowatt hours of energy in the grid that month was from clean energy, because I demanded it. So everybody,
You may have gotten none of it.
I may have used none.
I see.
Nobody knows. Yeah.
I see.
But like, if everybody in the city went and did this, they would have to go find
That many kilowatt.
Yeah.
that many kilowatt hours and buy it from
Well,
somebody.
think about
Spurs
it.
demand.
22,000 houses, roughly 1,000 kilowatt hours a
Mhm.
month per house. That's a lot of watts.
Is a lot of watts, but it basically forces them to go produce a market. It's a market signal, right? If enough people do it, they're like, hey, we gotta
They
buy
want
this somewhere, and
this,
they're
they want
legally
this,
required to
yeah.
buy this
Yeah, I
energy
get it.
from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes them go out and find it and go look for it and say, hey, wherever else I don't know enough about how.
So was it
electricity gets
$13 in addition to your regular bill?
On top of my bill,
On
it
your-
was like $13.
You said I want to offset all of it.
I said I
There's a
wanna
way to
offset.
say that?
Yeah, I can't remember, I've been doing this.
Maybe on
for so
the
long.
thing, they'll show us that, like you could actually say.
Yeah, there's
So
different
that-
enrollment levels.
That sounds like it's about a penny a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
So it was about 10 kilowatt hour.
So it's, you're,
1,300.
so instead
kilowatt
of
hour,
going like from
$13.
15 cents, you went to 16 cents for your first 600 and 17 to 18 cents for your, okay.
And
Cool.
do they share with you, like, here's our proof, we got this
They do.
free?
I
They'll
get
share that.
emails
That's cool.
from them all the time about where they're buying it, what my impact is and all of that.
So with this, I heard this, my husband's boss was doing this, where in his mind, in the boss's mind, that this was his way, instead of getting solar panels, he was just gonna offset it.
There's that.
that
There's also
count?
the,
Like, is that a trade?
it is a trade. It's always probably
Oh,
better.
yeah.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Big time.
Cause you're
To
saving.
offset his house, his 1,300 kilowatt hours, I mean, that's your high billing time of the year, would be about $50,000 or $60,000 in solar panels.
So this
Because
is cool.
we've got about
Right.
same electric bill.
So how often are people paying for this? Does it like depend on their kilowatt hour usage?
So you go to do, I also do the same thing for my natural gas. There's another offset there. It's not green power, it's a different thing. But you got to do a little bit of math in one of the two and be like, okay, what is my average usage over time, so that you set your thing correctly? Because I think you can end up overpaying if you're not careful. But I think it's more on the gas side than the power side, based on that being like a perfect match. But there's a thing of like, I want to do this much, right? I'm willing to spend this much more. It could be I'm willing to spend half a cent or a cent or whatever, and then you just set it where you feel comfortable, and then it just shows up on, it's a line item on my bill, it's all my electricity, and then it's green line item that says this is how much extra.
Really?
I'm
It's
paying.
really green?
It's the font is green, yeah, green power, everything green, and the rest is black, right? And it's green. And
So that means that their portfolio will have that much of additional green
Yep.
energy. It may not come to you.
yeah, it's just in our grid, because
In our-
there's no way to know where an
Yeah.
electron came
For
from.
the
So how does it compare with, just tell me again, how does it compare with if I have solar on my roof?
solar is
I think that would be a really good question to ask Puget Sound
Yeah.
Energy at our next meeting.
Yeah.
I don't have
But I
solar, I
think this
can't,
is
I
for the
can't do
people
solar.
who don't have that, like me, and we're probably not gonna get that because our kids are going off to school soon. We're saving money for
Well-
college, but I think like this could be a guilt-free way I could say, I'm contributing.
Yeah.
Is how I've seen it in my mind.
Solar can also vary for how effective it would be for like per house,
Yeah,
and
that's
and
true.
for a lot of situations, this just might be a more economically feasible option than getting solar panels. So you're still ensuring that your energy is being sourced from something like solar panels, from other clean energy, but it doesn't require the installation time at your house, and potentially, depending on how many trees there are around your house, like how efficient it
You
can
may
be.
not be
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't do solar because of my trees.
Something else that Puget Sound Energy will be talking about in March is, as I mentioned, it's for the enrollment total of 100, which is our goal. Community solar enrollments also count in addition to green power, and they'll be sharing more about the community solar program next month as well. So I think they'll probably have some more numbers, and then they'll be able to speak directly to how that will kind of vary household by household, and the benefits as well.
Well,
And
to answer Mason's question, using his data and what I got as a quote for solar panels a couple of years ago, it would take me 320 years to pay off
For it to equalize.
yeah. And in 2030, you got to remember that Puget Sound Energy, PSC, is supposed to be carbon neutral.
It's supposed to be.
Well, that doesn't mean it's all renewable. It just means it's offset.
Yeah.
With a credit somewhere. Yeah. So this is, from an economic standpoint, a way better deal, a way better way to go, I think.
Economy of scale, because they can much more easily
Yeah.
mass acquire.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're buying a lot of them from California.
And Stephanie, to answer your question, it's on your monthly bill. And one of the benefits of green power or community solar is you can enroll and you can also cancel at any time. So you're not having to sign a contract for multiple years or commit to more. It's when you have the ability to enroll and add a little bit more to your bill, then we encourage you to do so.
God, thanks. Sir.
That is encouraging me to see my.
In terms of what we want to have for this at Earth Day, I think if we can get some sort of handout either from PSC or like the information for a handout given to us from PSC so that we can just have like a little like paper we can give people. And then what like their key talking points that they want us to share, then we can add in whatever we want to add in that's more specific to Sammamish, but having key talking points from them to share with the community so that we can be like correctly and directly passing on the message that they want to be sharing. And I think those can just be like, we can like alongside whatever else we have at the table, we can have these things, we can have these handouts, we can go, here's something that we're working on here, and then read off and then like speak, like say the talking points, this is something you can get involved with, and then we can answer questions depending on what they have. But that way we know what PSC wants to share with the community, and we can support that as best as possible, and we have those items.
How long do we have to get 100 people enrolled?
Till the end of this year.
Doesn't sound like that hard. Do you want me to go around and knock?
That does sound pretty
This is very
Doesn't
doable.
sound hard, but yeah,
People,
sure enough,
doable.
people will sign up. Can I unsign?
We can do this.
Can I cancel and then re-sign to count as one?
I don't know that would work because they did give us a starting number, I believe. I don't know the number,
Like
but they have like
from
how many folks were enrolled as of January 1, and then we need to
Should
hit.
have told me this. Back in December, I would have canceled for a month.
This is great.
Yeah, this is cool.
Just add on a little like on that handout, like having either like a link or like QR code or whatever, just like something very clear, like this is where you go to sign up or to get the information you need in order to sign up, just making sure it's as direct as possible.
Mhm.
And it's only in the program. It doesn't have to be the full offset.
Yeah,
It's just
enrolling in the program.
Enroll in the program at any level, and that counts as a sign up.
Well,
And we
it
can
sounds
talk
like
with PSC
It's
next month
They're
as
cheap to
well.
go all the way.
It is, but affordability is a thing
Yeah.
for everybody. If it's
Well,
if it's
Yeah, but if all I gotta do is pay a penny more per kilowatt hour, that's about 3% of my bill.
sure.
Remember, I got 2 heat pumps. I'm using.
Not using a lot of it. Shouldn't be using that much electricity from heat pumps, right?
Well, I am charging a car.
Yep.
And I do have a couple other,
Thanks.
like 1 kilowatt motors that run. Yeah, so I'm waiting for the day when they clean up their act, yeah.
PSC.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too.
So, in terms of the issue that we're focusing on, like other than the PSC Green Power campaign and getting these 100 people, are we free to kind of like focus on more issues with like our other booth, or what does it kind of look like deciding what we want to focus on for that booth?
Yeah, I think that's ultimately up to the commission. We could have a booth fully dedicated to green power. I do believe Puget Sound Energy is planning to have a booth as well. So it may not make sense to have our booth fully dedicated to green power, but maybe have some information and talking points or specific sections of the wheel that refer to that, where we can use that as kind of a conversation starter. And then if folks do have really specific questions, we can send them over to the PSC booth.
Now, if they enroll people, does that count towards us?
If it's a Sammamish yeah.
No matter how they,
We're fully partnering with Puget Sound Energy on this. They're
Okay.
helping us with marketing materials. They'll be doing mailers. You will receive a mailer about green power.
I think they'll go by zip.
They don't need our referral.
Yeah.
So I was picturing it like kind of like the green power, and you were talking about transportation still, like our usual stuff, but this is in addition, so we have more space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
So we might have, one booth dedicated to buildings and energy, which includes green power. And then we might have another booth dedicated to transportation, for example.
Yeah.
Recognizing that we do only have one wheel at present, unless Steve wants to make another one. So
Go across the street and cut another section.
So yeah, maybe we could have one booth that has the wheel and a bunch of information related to the wheel, and then we could have an activity at the other booth. Or
I have some ideas. Can I share some ideas?
Is Energy
Oh.
Smart East Side still gonna be, are we still
Oh,
gonna
yes.
promote?
Yes, Energy Smart East Side. I believe we're doing a separate booth for them, so technically a third booth. But that will be staffed by Energy Smart East Side
Right.
folks. I might be floating kind of like how we did last year with Energy Smart East Side and Solarize,
Okay.
but we plan to have a full booth dedicated to that program.
So kind of what you were saying, but I was thinking like if we could have some sort of visual hook to get people to come over. So some like large poster we can make or something, or a sustainability kit. What do they call it? Ambassadors. They could make a large poster that says like something like if 100 Sammamish households switch to green power, you know, like how much carbon dioxide is reduced. Right, like some equivalent, and I think it's 4,000 pounds per year per house. Is that right?
How much?
I chat GPT'd it.
Oh.
It said 4,000 pounds of CO2 per year.
That's the average house.
He's-
By the average house in Sammamish, if they switch, but I don't
I think
quote me, that was not
right
my
now-
calculation.
Puget Sound Energy's, I think, carbon footprint is about 0.4 of a metric ton per megawatt hour. So, I mean, the city offset, roughly 800 pounds.
So you think 4,000 is too much?
No, your carbon footprint, if you're on natural gas, is well, I gotta back up. I'd have to figure that out.
Okay, whatever the
We don't get the
calculation
number right
is.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like something like that, like tell them like, here's what you'll be saving, right? Like an equivalent to taking this many cars off the road or, you know, something like that. And then I was thinking to engage the adults, because the wheel we've got covered, like that's fun. And
Kids
we
love
got that covered. But like something more for the grownups, like I was thinking like if we had how many people pledged, have one of those things that they visually can see, like the poster you visually see, like some sort of tally, you know, like you color it in.
Yeah.
You know, another one I was thinking of is like we have those jars again. I keep bringing up the jars, but guess how many beans represent the pounds of carbon dioxide an average household can reduce by switching to clean energy. I'm really into visuals. When you say the numbers, for me, it's like whatever. But if you actually like show me like, wow, that's 4,000, you know what I mean? Or something like that. So I was thinking of like the jars where people can engage and guess. And then if they get the right amount, maybe there's a prize for them. So they give us information, or in addition to the paper you thought you were mentioning, I was thinking maybe they get a pledge card, they could commit, like, you know, like, yeah, you like, instead of they just leave, it's like, no, like here, make your guess. And then we're gonna have a raffle and they can win a tote bag or, you know what I mean? Something greenish to win, or a native plant or.
And I know last year we did pins for Energy Smart East Side. So they're little pins that say carbon free Sammamish or electrify Sammamish. So that might be something I can
That's
order.
cute.
Yeah.
I like the idea you had about, like, well, I don't know if you meant it, but I was mentioning that thermometer thing.
Yeah, the thermometer. That's what I was trying to think of.
right.
Where you get to color it in.
I don't know if that's the right exact thing, but I like this idea of like back in business school, I remember a Harvard business case study of like if you make people feel like they're either on the outside or at least they're not alone, that people are more willing to do it. So if we have a number of people in Sammamish that are in the program, even like the original sign in Earth Day, and be like, join 6,000 of your neighbors in the green power program or whatever this number is, right? And we can track it. And then because it's almost the kickoff of farmers market season, like we can update this for every month and be like, cross it out. And now it's 7,000, well, not 7, right? We want to get to 100. The base is 6,000. We're trying to get to 6,100. You know, now we're at 6,020, right? We've got 20 people like join the movement, right? And like,
yes,
like a part of
you want to feel like
people come and like repeat to these things, right? And they see it and they're like, oh, I should look at it out. And carry it through to October or whatever the last farmers market is, and try to aim to be done then in our switch.
Yeah.
Tim is offsetting about 1,000 pounds of carbon a month.
Nice job.
For $13.
That's pretty good. That's pretty great.
Roughly, all I gotta do is divide 1,000 kilowatt hours into a megawatt hour. And So you get about 0.8 of a pound of carbon per kilowatt hour.
That's
And going down.
So one other thing that I've seen done with some other departments, which typically is used to collect public feedback on projects, but you may have seen where they have big posters and they have, you know, little colored dots where you can basically put a dot where your priority is. We could do something very basic, you know, which area of the climate action plan is most important to you, or we could do something more along the lines of, do you have an EV? Put a dot. Do you have a heat pump? Put a dot. Have you signed up for green power? Put a dot. So someone who has everything could put dots in everything. And then we also get to understand, wow, a lot of our community is carpooling or whatever we want those areas to be. And then they see, oh, I don't have an electric vehicle. Well, look how many people do have an electric vehicle. Maybe when I get a new car, that's something I'll consider. That would take up a good amount of space and would be probably a separate activity from the wheel, recognizing, you know, there are a lot of folks who come through Earth Day and we don't want to get a traffic jam. So something else we could consider.
I really
Like that idea.
Especially if we do end up having 2 booths, I think this could be another really good opportunity for like a scavenger hunt type thing. Especially if it's for the kids, because like that way we can make sure people get to both booths. We can also be a way to send them to PSE, to Energy Smart East Side, to whoever else is like good to highlight for that. But I think it's a good way to get people to go around, and especially with the way that Earth Day is set up, they're going to be going to most of it anyway. And so this is just a little bit extra incentive to actually stop by each of the different locations.
Yeah, I think
that our Parks and Rec team.
Okay.
we
Yeah.
did
So potentially just tagging in on that and just making sure that our booths have spaces within that if they're going to.
at our sustainability thing in August, we did that.
Yeah.
And that's when we set our record for
Yep.
the most people visiting the booth.
Yeah.
245.
That's awesome. Yeah, maybe they'll let us do it.
Yeah,
Take
so
it over.
whether we take it over or whether we tag in on what they're doing, I think either would be fine. Especially if we have 2 booths, is making sure both of those booths have
The little,
have a slot in it,
that's cool.
or it's a little thing that you visit both for the sustainability. I knew those would work.
One thing, if we do what you mentioned where they put the dots, a dot I would love to have would be like, what, different color dot or something, like put it where you want to learn more. Because one thing that's going to come up later in our discussion is, Rose brought up how Steve did the op-ed in the Independent, Sammamish Independent. So maybe we see where people are most curious about, that could be the article in the Sammamish Independent that someone here writes. Yeah, that could
Yeah,
help inform what.
they keep those things posted. I mean, you can still go into their website and find that.
Yeah, so if the community really wants to learn more about something, that's a way we could find out what it is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think like even going into this new year, like knowing where people like want to learn more, knowing people's priorities, what they care about is really important for what we're gonna work on.
So maybe it's sounding like we have one booth that's focused on information sharing and education, and then one booth that's focused on community feedback and information gathering. That might be kind of a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
And then we can still span multiple sections of the climate action plan across that.
But I just want to make sure there's more for engaging the parents.
Yeah.
Because right now I feel like it's really geared towards the kids, and then the grown-ups are like, right.
The sticker thing definitely feels good. Like I definitely think adults would enjoy engaging with that. And I do like the idea of like the thermometer thing, and especially having it already, like starting with it partially filled is really huge for getting people to actually contribute to it. Because if it starts empty, the first people are going to be really hesitant to scratch in on it. So I mean, someone will probably go, yes, I get to be the first person, but they can still be, yes, I'm the first person for actually filling in what we have that day. And just will, it could be obvious, like it's filled in with like whatever, like a digital printed color fill, and then they're scratching in with a pencil or whatever. But I think that's a really good way to get adults to be a little bit more like,
do something more.
A little bit more like, okay, I'm contributing and then like when they do that, like the pledge cards or whatever, whatever the like PSE handout we have for them. That way they have something tangible as well as something they're contributing to.
That's good.
Any other ideas?
Any thoughts on how to include the sustainability ambassadors? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think so. Something I was thinking about like different activities we could do, and something that the sustainability ambassadors like we're really involved with, especially at Tesla STEM, like through ESD, the environment class there, they would always like do a table and then they would have like kind of like a waste sorting game type thing where like they have all sorts of items and then like people just get to come up and like it kind of turns into a competition a little bit. People try to sort as fast as they can. Um, but I'm not sure how much room we have for different activities like that with two booths. But I think like something DIY as well. Like if people could make like little seed, I think they're called like seed bombs or something, or like they will like decorate. It's really easy to make. Um, yeah, so like different activities like that. If we have some space, the sustainability ambassadors like they've done a lot of that, and I think they may be interested in helping out.
How much space will be needed? Like our tables are how big are the tables?
I typically have one in here, but I would say maybe from like where
Six
like
feet.
like this big. And if
5
there's
feet.
enough tables, sometimes what we've done is done kind of an L shape
Yeah.
to help guide folks. One thing to remember that I definitely could have reminded you all of when we first started this conversation is there are going to be partner booths. So a lot of these specific areas, so the native plant stewards and Sammamish stewards are going to be doing, they typically do a native plant giveaway, some coloring sheets. They have a whole kids table related to their booth. I provided them with some coloring sheets from Arbor Day last year. And then Republic Services, the city's solid waste hauler, typically has a booth. And I believe they actually did waste sorting last year. So some of that actually will be covered in the event, but recognizing there's more that we can do and maybe partner the sustainability masters with some of those booths as well.
Another thing I think is really important is just connecting people to why we're doing this. This is like really taking a step back, but I think like some people when they walk up to the booth, they don't really think about like the nature we have here and like why we're ultimately doing this, which is to have a clean environment, have a clean planet for all of us. And I feel like I really like Christy's idea about like making it visual. I feel like this might be a little bit like I don't want to like print a bunch of stuff, but like having like little photos of like maybe like local natural spaces or something around the booth could be interesting.
Could they make would they like to make a poster that we can always just put up?
I think they would be really
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Or do they want to do more, or do they want to do more after the event?
I think it's pretty open at this time. Part of the reason I'm meeting with Peter tomorrow is any brainstorming we do today, I'll run by him tomorrow, kind of understand what they have capacity for. So as many ideas as you all can generate today, I can help kind of narrow that down. That might even look like sustainability ambassadors running the wheel while we're kind of spread out across the other booth, or one person running the wheel while there's two folks talking to parents, and being a little bit more dynamic. So we're not just standing behind the wheel, we're also engaging folks who might be waiting in line because there tends to be long lines for the wheel at Earth Day, and helping direct folks to the second booth to get their feedback. One of the things that I've seen sustainability ambassadors do really well at some of our farmers markets and some commissioners as well is really walking out and like meeting folks that maybe didn't even approach our booth and say, hey, I'm XYZ. Have you heard about this program? Or, hey, do you want to come learn more? And bringing folks to the booth or taking them from the line to the diagram or activity, and just being a little bit more hands-on with the folks we're interacting with. Obviously to everyone's own comfort level, but I think that would be one way. So they're not just waiting in line, spinning a wheel, grabbing a resource. They're actually having that conversation and getting it in the context that matters.
Yeah, maybe there could even be something that we have them do like while they're waiting in line or something. Like we could like send them off like to search for like a new plant or something, and then like share that with us or something like that. I'm not sure if that would work. But.
Yeah. I'll definitely write these down and we'll talk with Peter tomorrow.
I'm pretty sure like last time at one of the booths, they where each of the ambassadors were sent to like the trash can area where people usually throw away their trash.
Mhm.
And so then when a person did throw away their trash correctly, then there's sort of like an incentive for throwing it away correctly and like some explanation.
That's good.
I remember seeing
Yeah.
that.
That's
I
cool.
like
Having someone present near the bins makes a huge difference, even if it's just there's like whatever infographic there and there's someone at the bins and someone can walk up and go, hey, where do I put this? Even if it's not like a big interaction, that does, from what I've seen, make a huge difference in terms of getting things in the correct bins, because the infographics can only go so far. People only look at them so much. But if there's a person there, there's a lot more of an opportunity to go, oh wait, there's a person here. I should probably double check where this goes.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
So like we are thinking about like 3 kind of things like the.
Yeah, if it's like the garbage recycling compost
Yeah,
setup, and having someone like in addition to whatever graphics, or having a person nearby that like is visibly like someone who could be asked questions about where something goes. I've seen that at a bunch of different events, not even just city related things. Like I've seen that a couple of times at like heading out after a concert. Like there will be someone near the bins, and like they'll be like nudging people towards one bin or the other.
It was done a few times during the summer at farmers market.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are confused, even if you have pictures and everything, they don't really negotiate that much.
Great. Any other thoughts on this? I think we definitely have some options that I'll run by Peter.
So, go ahead.
What I have seen in this type of putting the right bin, what has helped is, like say we have still the poster, but if you put it physically, like a cup, or like say you have a dinner and then
having the actual item
yes, if you just put it like pin it there, in front of it, it works like a magic. Like, where does the cup go? Where does the spoon go? Where does the plate go? And where does the waste food go? Like if you can really put that, some kind of a physical, literally a cup there, literally a pot, that helps people a lot. That because they don't think about looking at the poster and then thinking about it. I look at people's momentum, like if you are like 10, 15 people or 20 people in the line, you are trying to put that, they don't think that much. It doesn't matter how much orientation you just keep the visual, it really helps them.
Yeah.
Physical.
I wonder if sustainability ambassadors would be willing to put together like a large poster or something that some of them could hold while the others give high fives for correct sorting or something like that. Yeah. Okay.
The other thing I just want to bring up, and I don't know if we can do it today, but I went around and looked at all of our parks. Okay, all of them have bike racks except for Beaver Lake Park. There is not a bike rack at the baseball fields, and there's not a bike rack at where our booths will all be. So last year, when my whole family rode our bikes, there was nowhere to put our bikes. So you mentioned this, and I actually was thinking about it. Would the Sustainability Commission be interested in making something, I don't know what it is, but like a formal ask of the council to please put in a bike rack by April 25th? So people can bike to the event.
There's like a Beaver Lake Commission.
That's separate. The Beaver Lake Management District is really an advisory body made up of homeowners around Beaver Lake specifically. And it's more about water quality, invasives management. They aren't as involved in Earth Day, but I definitely think I'll have to ask the process just to make sure I'm going about it correctly. But I could absolutely see the commission making a recommendation to council.
That's what it is. Yeah, because I think you mentioned, I saw you we both spoke at the last city council meeting. And I think you said that you heard people are asked for that before.
I've heard it mentioned before. I don't remember exactly when. I'd have to go through my notes, but I know that it has been brought up, but more of a push would probably be good, just because it's not necessarily a high priority thing. So whether that's coming as a recommendation from the commission, or whether that's going through some other Parks and Recs channel, like or planning commission, like whichever channel that would end up going through. Having a little bit more of a push there would probably be good, just to make sure it gets on the docket or whatever the appropriate.
Yeah,
planning
and
term is.
in light of it being Earth Day, that's. really what it
Especially
is. It's like,
we can
come
frame
on,
it
we
like
wanna
this is
fight.
for Earth Day.
Yeah.
We're like, there's a specific reason this is being encouraged. It's not just, oh, it's a useful improvement. This is a part of the city's message towards sustainability, is making sure that we're encouraging other forms of transportation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will look into this and
Thank
we
you.
can either take action or have a follow-up discussion at the March meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We could even tie it like into a sort of education campaign to encourage people to, if they're able, like if they're not too far from the park, just bike over there and tell us about it. Like I feel like biking is fun, especially if you're pretty close to it, so they could just bike and then kind of tell that story.
Absolutely.
Want me to go on to the next one?
Yeah, unless there was any other comments, or suggestions.
Anybody else on Earth Day? Is that good?
Do we want to do any more planning for what prizes would be now, or do we want to save that for later?
Yeah, I heard tote bags, pins. I have these super nifty stickers. I ordered a whole bunch of them that are earth and
Yeah.
environment.
Great.
The
water
Pass
bottles
them
for
down.
water.
They're waterproof, so they're not just like
Oh, nice.
low quality. They're good. And I have a whole bunch of them.
Are you
So-
gonna keep these?
Oh, this was more just to show you all. Like keep one, you can keep one. Like I have plenty. But just to
Those
show
are
you,
great.
we've got a whole bunch. They're cute. We'll hand them out. Feel free to keep one or leave it back with me at the
Yeah,
end.
they're really cute. Very cute.
I do have some of these lanyards left from a previous year, King County Metro, different ways to get around, trying to give out prizes that are sustainable, reusable, helpful, not just little tchotchkes. So any other ideas, shout them out now or feel free to send me an email. I can't guarantee we'll have all of the suggestions, but we definitely will have at least a couple to hand out at Earth Day and then throughout the year. But if there are any that are really specific to Earth Day, please let me know, and I will try my best to make it happen.
Lanyards are definitely good to have.
Yeah.
People enjoy those.
Well, did you ever check if we could do a raffle for like, to support our local business? Like Ace Hardware donated
Oh, let me
$25.
check.
Because I know that some of our businesses are struggling,
Mm-hmm.
and so it'd be nice to help them out at the same time.
Yeah, I'll follow up individually with you, Christy, so you can remind me exactly what you had in mind.
So what is that lanyard made of? Like, is it a
I believe it's
compostable
cloth.
material or?
Yeah, I don't think it's
Nylon?
compostable, but it's meant to be like a long use, sturdy lanyard. It might be recycled cloth. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Some kind of, it has to have some kind of sustainability in it.
Yeah, why are we giving it away?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but it has to it is a very useful thing. I go to conferences and things like this. Every time we use it. But the
Yeah,
question
it's
is,
like
since
100
we are doing part of sustainability, it has to have something, like either it is made of recycled stuff or made of something.
Yeah, and we actually do have a green purchasing guide that we developed as an internal tool for the city. So any kind of event purchases or materials and supplies, we do encourage and ask folks to use that. So if it can't be used with sustainable materials, we do ask that it's a local business to reduce shipping costs and support local businesses, or that it's very durable. So like rechargeable battery pack,
Yeah.
and the like. So absolutely, that is a
Thank you.
concern. This was not something I actually bought. This was given to me by King County Metro, and I just have a couple left. So okay, tote bags, pins, lanyards, stickers.
If we were to have like any food as prizes, like I know we've had candy and stuff in the past, I think like we could potentially tie that into supporting small businesses or small farms. Like if we got some sort of like food from like a local, like small, like little honey, something from like a local business, that could be interesting.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think you had also emailed me separately about clementines. Like
Oh,
little,
yeah, because
little
not all
cuties.
kids like fruit. I mean,
Yeah.
not all kids like candy, so it's
Yeah.
like trying to think of fruit or
Totally.
something.
Fruits are definitely good.
Yeah,
Fruits.
Kids like fruits more than we think they do.
Yeah.
Great, thanks everyone. This was super helpful. I've got a lot of ideas and I will give you a more finalized plan in March.
Excellent.
Awesome. Okay, so our next up is our 2025 year in review and our 2026 work planning. So we received the 2025 work in review. And I thought we went over this last time.
Somewhat. So last time was very much focused on a look back on our outreach and some of our key programs. This is really just reminding everyone, especially since we have a new commissioner, what we talked about in 2025, if there were any topics that the commission feels are important to revisit, and then just taking a look ahead at 2026. So this is not necessarily a super long agenda item. It's just a reminder and a resource for you all. Yeah, I know this year we talked about doing a field trip with Cedar Grove, so I'm working to get that scheduled. And yeah, just a reminder, there's a little blurb here. You guys did a lot last year. We talked about this comprehensive plan. We received presentations on Town Center, the bike and pedestrian mobility plan, the restoration program, sustainability ambassadors. We prioritized the climate action plan for the next couple of years. Many outreach events throughout the year. And really wonderful discussions with all of you, as well as that tour with Republic Services. So
You should add in August that we had our sustainability themed farmers market.
yeah. That's technically not like an official meeting of the commission, so that's why it's not included in the work plan here, but it was included in the outreach metrics tracking, and is part of our plan for next year as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a great flag, Steve.
yeah. One thing I was thinking that we have a lot of controversy about town center development and versus spread development. Like, do you have any sustainability analysis on that which one is the more sustainable? Whether build it in a town center in a dense residential, or allow people to spread and build development and places. So I think that is probably a good support that we can provide to this council to make decisions and things like that. I was thinking that whether we can put that in our agenda or something like that, do some kind of analysis for that, or some kind of research, and give them some suggestions. Because that looks like even last election, that was a huge issue. I think that will be good if we can, from this commission, we can, from a sustainability perspective, and if we can give our thoughts to the council, and then they can make that decision.
Yeah, I can see. I'll try to cross-reference our work plan with the council's work plan and try to align some of those conversations. If town center isn't on council's agenda, there isn't as much of an opportunity for the commission to provide a formal recommendation. Typically, we try to align commission recommendations with the council, city council meeting agendas. So I'll take another look at that. I know we did have an environmental impact statement that was being worked on for the town center development plan. I think some of the political controversy you're talking about was based on the number of units that were going to be studied for the environmental impact statement. So if the commission is interested, I can see about the staff that were working on that project to come back and give a refresher.
I think that will be good. That will be good, that we know how our cities, planning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we presented on the town center initially, it was pretty high level, kind of getting started on that work, and there has been a lot done since then. So yeah, we can totally revisit that. I just want to make sure there's a majority kind of consensus to add that to the agenda.
Definitely, this is my just opinion, but it has to be agreed upon by the commission to include.
Well,
that.
I don't know if I should say this, but I thought the election was indicating that was almost done. I thought the city plan.
Yeah, I do
is
not
that
know
not true?
So the town center work is kind of like we talk about curvature of the earth, right? So the development and code updates around town center are still moving forward. It's just what those codes and policies are going to look like. So an example is one of the possible work plan items related to town center is like a green building incentive program where you go above and beyond the state codes to pass extra incentives for folks to build green. So adding solar to the roof, adding extra space for native species, installing really energy efficient heat pumps, going above and beyond the level of insulation. There are certain things that the city can kind of like levers that the city can pull to incentivize that for developers. So some of that supplemental work, for example, the Green Building Incentive Program might be pushed out a little bit while the new council sorts out their priorities.
No, I was saying more the density. Is that?
No, I'm
on the
talking about the
table?
same thing, yeah.
So the city doesn't actually have, I think this is one of the misconceptions with town center. The city is not saying 4,000 units will be built or 2,000 units will be built. The city is planning for the potential of that being built because ultimately it's the developers who come in and build the units. I can definitely go back. I think recognizing that town center is not on the agenda tonight, I just want to make sure we leave time for everything.
Yeah.
But it sounds like
Discuss it next.
it sounds like there is a group consensus that this would be helpful to come back as a future presentation to kind of refresh on some of these questions and understand where we're at now, given that we have some new city council members and it's been since April of last year that the commission talked about this.
Yeah.
Because I think that's fabulous. If we can give a recommendation and we look it up and stuff, who would be that to come to us? Who would be that?
That would be the Department of Community Development. So yeah, David, I think last time Matt Brandmeier, the former deputy director, he's no longer with the city. So having David Pyle come in and talk, I think would be fine.
Yeah.
One of the things, just as a reminder to the commission, our work plan and kind of the items that we focus on, we do our best to align that with council. So if town center has been kind of shelved for a little bit while council works on other priorities and gets up to speed, it might not be till later this year or maybe early next year. If it's not actively being worked on, there isn't the opportunity to provide feedback on a project that is paused. I wouldn't say it's paused necessarily, but as council is getting up to speed, there have not been near-term decision points that the commission has the opportunity to weigh in on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always public comment.
There is always public comment, absolutely. And I think as individual residents, right, this is where we separate your role as commissioners with your role as individual residents on specific issues.
Yeah.
Just speaking just because from some of what I've noticed around the conversation in council stuff around the town center, the work on that project was briefly paused from the end of the year to like beginning of the year now, recognizing that the council transition was potentially going to shake things up. Earlier so at the previous meeting, they had a study session with David Pyle, Avril Beatty, and Evan Fisher coming through and giving like a rehash of the situation with the town center and getting a lot of feedback from the council. So obviously I have no way of knowing if they are going to be taking more action on it in the near future, but from what I observed there, I imagine there is going to be more conversation about it at the very least. And so whether it's public comment or suggestions from the commission, there probably will be something sooner this year, is my guess.
So that was an agenda in the recent meeting?
The most recent meeting, the February 10th meeting, which is study session. They had a whole meeting with the community development folks about the town center.
Yeah, so that could be still a live issue that we can probably support.
Absolutely. I think to kind of follow up Swan's comment, recognizing that meeting did already happen, when it comes back to council would be a good time for the commission to weigh in.
Thank you.
Yeah, just trying to align it so it's not providing, anyways.
And I think in general, like if the city is meeting about, the city council is meeting about these sorts of topics, like the commission I think can play a role in analyzing sustainable development in general and what that should look like.
Exactly. And we can have guest speakers come in as well. as it relates to, you know, the balancing environmental protection with development requirements
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the state.
No, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
We are discussing this, although it's not in the agenda, but it's in connected to this our plan.
Well, it's in the next one, so
Yeah.
can we go to the 2026?
Yes, yes, that's what I was.
Yeah. the
Before we do that,
Yes.
talking about 2025.
Mhm.
Yep. If I remember, even back to the orientation at the beginning of this meeting, one of the outcomes of the commission is supposed to influence the council in some way.
Mhm.
We don't talk about that as success here in this little page. Is there any, I don't know, proof? Like, how do we know that that whatever we talk about in this room does actually influence council in one way or another?
Yeah.
Do you know? Like, I don't know that I feel like we do or do not
Have a clear
influence them.
understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this will be made more obvious as we actually get into the urban forest management plan update and the climate action plan update, where those are tangible projects that fall within the Sustainability Commission's purview that go through the formal kind of public noticing, public comment, feedback, just as we were developing the climate action plan. So because the commission was created after the adoption of the climate action plan, there was not that opportunity, but that's the group that Steve was involved in, was the community advisory group. But I would say, like, all of the presentations and questions and feedback that you all have provided, thinking back to the town center conversation in April, some of the feedback that you all brought up then about density, about tree retention, about transportation concerns, traffic concerns, any of that, it is taken and noted by the groups that are coming to present to you. So it may not be that direct communication to council, but the reason we're having these, whether it's city staff or partner groups, for example, with Green Power coming, that is what it looks like for now. When we have those more tangible policy documents that we're reviewing, it'll be a lot more obvious, that line and that connection. I think with a newer commission, a lot of the early stages were spent really educating about the government process, educating about city programs, so that you all can understand what work is being done and what work is being done already and what work is still to come. And recognizing that a lot of the work that we have to do with the makeup of the Sammamish community is outreach. So unlike City of Bellevue, for example, that has a lot more policy around commercial buildings and transportation, there's a lot more levers that commission could pull compared to a city like Sammamish, where the impact of the commission, if we were to move forward with the clean building incentive program, a lot of that work would come from staff first, and then we would bring it to the commission as a presentation and an opportunity to provide feedback. So yeah, I think another good example is like the fleet electrification study, right? We took commission feedback and we implemented that into the study that was ultimately brought to council, that was adopted and approved by council, that is now actively being worked on by our facilities team. So
got it.
Yeah, does that answer your question? I can bring a couple other examples, but there are some commissions that write formal memos, and there are some commissions that really are kind of hands on the ground, talking with the community, providing feedback to staff, and influencing that way. So I think the bike racks are a great example of a more formal memo that we could put together. I think with a city manager form of government, I need to just refresh for myself if that is more appropriate coming from the city manager and staff, or coming directly from the commission. Either way, it is getting to city council. It's just the path through which it does. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So there was one thing that I'm sure that we are already saying probably with the city council agenda and their plan. It will be good to be a little bit ahead of that, because if you want to give them input or our thoughts on certain items, that we need to provide that before they make a decision on it. So we need to be a little bit ahead of the game.
Yeah.
with their agenda and their, thing. So you are most aware of what they are doing. So maybe we work that way, that we are in sync with, what is coming for the city council and what
Yes.
they're thinking, that way we can provide our thoughts by the time they make the decision.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think another good example of the great work that you all have done that is very tangible, right, is the Sustainable Sammamish Guide. That was very actively an ask from the council, a work plan item that they wanted, that they want the commission to be providing input and it's not just coming from staff. It's what does the commission think the community needs to hear, and how can we communicate that, and what does that look like?
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, and absolutely, we're not 100% going to be lined up with council. I think that is more the role of the planning commission, is doing some of that intense policy review, program feedback. That is the role of the planning commission, is to help plan and support the work that is being done by council. So being on the sustainability commission is wonderful, but if you are wanting to get a little bit more in the weeds of some of the policy program work that's being done, I actually would really recommend applying for and maybe trying out the planning commission as well, because they get a little bit more on the ground with formal recommendations to council as required by state law.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking more into from a sustainability perspective. Like there are a lot of input that maybe we can provide. That's what I'm thinking, not about from a planning perspective.
Well, the planning commission does also review, as it relates, so they will also review the comprehensive plan, and part of that is the climate and resiliency section of the comprehensive plan. So the planning commission is aware of all of the commissions, and they're basically very informal of me, but they're like the boss commission, right? So they consider all of the different.
So in that case, should we put our input to them?
Depends on the situation.
I would say it definitely depends. So the urban forest management plan is a good example, where it would go through the sustainability commission, and then likely the planning commission, and then city council.
Something just to add on in terms of syncing up with what the council's topics are, we only can know, we can only know so far in advance what their agenda items are going to be. So as much as we can, I think I do agree, as much as we can have topics prepared before they're actually discussing and making decisions on them, we also only know so far in advance what they're going to be looking at.
Maybe, or do they get this too? Do they have one of these?
I mean,
because this would be neat if they have something.
They have
like
a
this.
schedule, but it's not on
it's not planned out quite so far in advance.
Oh, okay.
There's certain things that legally, time-wise, the comprehensive plan is planned pretty far in advance to hit certain legal requirements and deadlines, but sometimes things shift around if there's consultants or projects. And the other way there's two ways to think of it, right? There's the commission providing recommendations to council that you all are coming up with. For example, the bike racks. There is plans like the climate action plan that fall under the commission purview that we will actively be working on and providing feedback to before council adopts that plan. But then there's the other side of it, where council can ask and request feedback from the commission. And with a new council, that hasn't happened yet. And some of the things we could work on as staff is communicating that better to you. So the council requested and wanted to prioritize the Sustainable Sammamish Guide. They asked for the fleet electrification study. And so then we brought that to the commission for feedback versus the commission bringing something to the council. So it does go both ways. And as council gets further along into their tenure, I anticipate there will be opportunities where they're saying, hey, we're working on this. We want to know what the Sustainability Commission thinks. Ultimately, the commission that is closest in terms of advising council is the Planning Commission, because of the nature of that role as it sits under kind of state structure.
I'd like to add something to try kind of address what Nizan is getting at here. And I'm thinking you're basing your comments on Mary Wichter's public comment just a little while ago.
Yeah.
They did do, and I have read it, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten a lot about it. The final environmental impact study on the town center. It came out October, November, and it might be worthwhile for us all to go back and read through that again and see how the various aspects of that document, which is lengthy. I think it's over 100 pages.
Lots
What
to read.
Yeah,
sustainability
executive
related
summary,
activities were in there. And maybe, I don't know, Rose, it could be for a future meeting of ours. The homework would be read the document and come prepared to discuss it with respect to anything that might have a flavor of sustainability.
I agree.
Mhm.
What was the name of the document? Just so.
The final EIS, the final environmental impact statement.
I
And
had sent it out to you all.
You might have, I
Yeah.
just need to
I
put
think-
it again.
but
That's
you
it.
So
could go,
some of that is also maybe we're not focusing on it in a meeting necessarily, but there is an opportunity to provide public comment, and then
Yeah.
you could do that as an individual and sustainability commissioner.
If if the council discusses something, but there aren't any decisions made in the meeting, could we like discuss that after they've already like had it in a meeting? Like what is the reason that we would need to know about it before their meeting happens?
I think it depends on the document. So there's certain cadence for, I'll go back to the I'll go back to the comprehensive plan update. So there's public hearings that need to happen where they hear from the community. There's planning commission review. There's an opportunity for public feedback. And so in those instances, it's helpful to provide council with the information and feedback ahead of time. And I think, if council is talking about going back to the bike racks, going back and forth, especially maybe during budget season, potentially, oh, should we prioritize this? Should we prioritize that? Then the commission, after kind of hearing council deliberations and understanding what the decision point is, then we, or you all could provide that after the fact. So that would be an example of like the commission bringing something to the council versus the council asking for the commission's feedback. Got it. Good question.
Thank you.
Since we're running, we have 15 minutes. Can I add a new thing that we are invited to do for
Sure.
2026? So the Klahani community manager said for Klahani Days, which is right now July 11th, we are welcome to bring a booth for free and our own booth and our own table and our own canopy and have our wheel there and whatever else we wanted.
Perfect.
So that was
Nice.
That would
confirmed.
be fantastic.
There you go.
Yeah.
where do they do that?
That's at Lakeside Park. So the one, right where Yellow Lake entrance is,
Yeah.
it's right there,
Okay.
that area. And it's a big event. There's lots of kids and
I'll
families.
bet.
Yep.
It's like their 4th of July, but they do it the week after.
Mhm.
So July 11th.
That would definitely be good to go to,
Yeah.
especially if they're not going to let us set the table for free.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great. I was
His name's
going,
Chris Seiler. I don't know if you're writing notes, but
I'll follow up with you via
Okay.
email.
Okay.
I'm just adding it. Do you know the time frame for that?
no.
Okay.
But it's the morning. It's usually like the kids do a bike parade and then they go there and there's food and activity.
Lakeside Park.
Lakeside Park,
Perfect.
Lakeview, it's Lakeside. I think it's Lakeside Park. It's Yellow Lake.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, that's a great transition, Christy. Let me just quickly to finish our previous conversation. Oh, is that not going to share? Okay, so just real quick, looking ahead to 2026, I will inquire about when a good time to come back on town center is. We can definitely resend the environmental impact statement in advance of that meeting. What am I missing from our conversation we just had? Was there anything else brought up that you all would like to see return to this agenda?
Well, one thing that they brought up, that you brought up too, was did we want to have a joint committee meeting with another commission? So like that would be like, can we have it with the planning commission? Can we have it a joint session to learn from each other?
That
Or
might
no?
be good to do as it relates to the urban forest management plan, perhaps.
So I don't know
So,
if people were interested in that. Like we talked about that last time.
or potentially in May with the tree giveaway and the King Conservation District canopy assessment, we could meet with the Parks and Recreation Commission.
So when we have a meeting on the urban forest management plan, are we is the intent to start a revision for that document?
Yes.
And that revision, is the city gonna hire a consultant?
That's the plan.
Okay,
Mhm.
and we would be reviewing their various edits.
Yes, so this tentative September date, recognizing the agenda is in draft form right now, is for us to read through the urban forest management plan as it exists, understand some of the history, background, goals, and really set the stage for that review. My current understanding of our work plan is that we will be beginning to engage a consultant right about that time.
Okay,
So it would be kind of an intro, letting you know what the scope of work of the update is, letting you know what the outcome is, getting feedback from you all on it initially, and then starting that work. And then periodically, as the work continues into the next year, we would have that as a recurring meeting item.
but to contract, you would be in charge of writing, or probably tasked with writing the statement of work that would go out to a contractor or contractors to bid on.
Correct.
Okay,
Do we want to just add a small line item for the June meeting for planning? If we want to do any planning for the Kalani event?
Sure.
I think your dates too are a day off.
Yes, they
I
are.
think you
They
said
are.
2025. I'm like, I keep.
Well, they're-
Oh my gosh, I totally changed it and I
I'm like, these are off right there.
Yep,
Okay,
you're so
good,
right.
good.
Yep. Dude, don't pay too much. That's why it's in a draft form.
Yeah. And
Oh, yeah.
the smaller thing with the orientation is listed for March instead of today.
Yes, so this was the one that this is the what was published to you all, and
Yeah.
it'll be updated. So since we got the boarding commission orientation done today, that leaves us a lot more time to talk through some of those items.
I definitely think it would be good to have a lot of time to go over the program, to like having a lot of time for next month to talk with PSC and to go over the report.
Exactly.
Because those will probably take up most of the meeting,
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah.
So I think the shift from like climate action plan work, I mean, we'll always be working on that, but the shift to focusing more on the urban forest management plan is really interesting. What would that kind of look like in terms of like shifting priorities? Like, would that look like focusing more on natural resources? What would that kind of look like in our outreach and everything? Would be focused more on that?
A little bit. So our outreach for the climate action plan and some of these community initiatives will continue, especially in the early stages of the urban forest management plan. That will be more of an internal commission project. Internal, still available to the public. Folks can provide input, but that would be early stages. And then as part of the urban forest management plan update, I anticipate that we will be doing some community outreach, gathering feedback on specific plan goals, actions, understanding community priorities so that we can wrap that into the plan. So when the time comes for that community engagement as it relates to the plan, we would wrap that into our outreach.
Got it.
Yeah.
Quick question for the December stuff for the LED streetlight conversion. Is that like people coming in to give information about that project?
Yes, that was something I believe you had brought up, just to understand, we heard about restoration last year. I don't know that we necessarily need a full restoration update. It's really just going to be program metrics. And then for the LED streetlight conversion, it'll be an update from staff on what's going on. So you all are aware of the great work the city's doing. Yeah. Okay.
Are we done planning
that?
that? Okay. Yes, so just a reminder, our volunteer appreciation event is February 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Beaver Lake Lodge. Is everyone going? I signed up. Tim, are you going?
I'm looking.
Okay, February
Calendar.
26th.
Surprise, we have dance up.
Oh, 6
Just
to
so to make you the wrong dance.
6 to 8 p.m. Is that it?
That's the main one. I also just wanted to briefly give an update. I heard from our Parks and Recreation team, the outreach calendar that I had provided at the January meeting was tentative dates. Those dates have now been finalized. So these are the dates and times for our outreach events as they currently stand. Recognizing we've got a couple coming up soon. So Spring into Adventure is an event that I tabled at with our volunteer coordinator last year. It's at Lake Sammamish State Park, organized by Friends of Lake Sammamish State Park. So if there's a couple commissioners who are available, would love to have you attend. I'll be sending out some email communications related to that. Finalized dates for Earth Day, Rigapalooza, 4th on the Plateau, obviously. And then I've finalized the dates where I'm available to table at the farmers market. So we're doing about 1 booth a month, with 2 in August, because we have the Sustainable Sammamish Market and no commission meeting. So we're doing a little bit of extra outreach at that time. So feel free to take a picture of it. I'll send this out as well and add it as an agenda attachment. Just heard about some of these, so that's why it was not available last week. And then the couple of events that still need to be announced. We're working to finalize our recycling. Oh, here you go, Amazon. We're working to finalize. Did you get the picture? I had it scrolled down a little bit.
Let me do it again.
You should do an email about
And I'll email it as well. Yes.
Yeah, I can tell you, Rose, this year I attend few of the farmers market at least.
Great. So yeah, the recycling events we're still working to lock down. I am coordinating with our restoration team. They don't plan their restoration events quite this far in advance. And then the Kohani days I had as a TBD, but now I know when it is. And then we're also going to be doing some workshops through the Energy Smart Eastside Heat Pump program that just have not been scheduled yet. So lots going on. This is, again, a huge reason why we appreciate your support. I will be tabling at all of these, but having those extra folks there to engage the community in conversation and help with the information sharing is hugely beneficial. If there are other events you know of, cultural events, religious events, community events, please let me know. We definitely have capacity to do a little bit more, especially if there's really great attendance. For example, Kohani days, really trying to maximize our outreach as much as we can throughout the year.
Quick question. I noticed on the planning agenda, there was a note about the tree giveaway earlier in the year. Is that planning for the November event, or because it looks like in the the draft calendar was a few months earlier on the topics?
Yes, so that is planning. So for the tree giveaway, we are going to be doing community outreach in advance because there is basically a limited number of trees that we have to give away. And we are targeting some equity priority areas in terms of who would benefit most from a free tree. So we'll be working with the commission to do that targeted outreach and spread the word to the groups that would benefit most before it's available. I mean, it'll be available to the whole community, but starting with that targeted outreach, getting folks to register and just sharing that with the community. Right. Yeah, please feel free to send any events my way. Looking forward to having you all help with volunteering, and we'll revisit this at future meetings as well. Typically at these events, we have the wheel, we have the giveaway. There's kind of a standard setup that I use, but if there's, Bike Everywhere Day, for example, we tend to focus more on transportation. The Sustainable Sammamish Market has a ton of partner booths. So as we get close, every Sustainability Commission meeting, I will have the upcoming events and kind of provide that friendly reminder and get any necessary feedback.
Excellent.
Okay.
Are you ready to end? Anybody else? Anything before we end?
Yeah, I have one thing. You all got sent this by Paul Stickney sent it to everyone.
Yeah.
I would suggest you read it because in 2027, when we start redoing the climate action plan, this is a good piece of
What's it called? What's it called?
This is from the Washington State Department of Commerce. And if you look in your emails, and you've got one from Paul Stickney.
Oh.
He sent this, and I read it, and it's a really good, helpful guide. I wish it had been around when we went through developing of our own city's climate action plan.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very.
And Swan, I know you wanted to briefly share during commissioner and staff reports.
In this case, this is actually passing along a comment from Councilmember Amy Lamb, who wanted to check in about this. There's something with a grant that was shared with the City of Issaquah for compostable to-go materials. And she was curious like what the status of that is. And asked me about it at the retreat, and so I figured I would pass that along here just to make sure that that's flagged for NODA.
Great. Yeah, I know Councilmember Lamb is very excited about that. She did also come and speak with us at Frosty Fest, and we're currently working on the request for proposals with the city of Issaquah. So developing a scope of work that will go out to bid, and then we will identify a consultant who will help us implement that program. So we will, it's on, you might have seen on the 2026 agenda, we do have that as a future work plan item, but it's a program and grant that runs 2026 through 2027.
Okay.
So we're just now kicking off that work. Cool. Yeah.
And it's compostables for what?
To go materials like from restaurants.
Yeah, so it's
Oh.
targeting all restaurants in Issaquah and Sammamish to do some education and incentives around reusable and compostable serviceware.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the first stage of that work, we anticipate will be a lot of information gathering from the current state of restaurants, barriers, challenges, and how to overcome.
Do the restaurants compost now? Not compost, food. Waste food, do they compost or?
Some do. That's part of the study. Just figuring
Not all,
out
but some.
who and to what extent, and are they composting correctly,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of greenwashing with compostable serviceware right now, so really educating folks on what is compostable and how to support them.
And there are compostable materials now, and you can serve the plates they serve is pretty sturdy, you know.
Mhm.
Like even 5 years ago, you cannot find the plates that those are compostable, but sturdy or look good or feel good. But now they have come up with those materials, so it is doable.
Yeah, that was the main thing I had from that, was just making sure to pass that along.
Great, thank you.
No, I think that's a great thing.
Any other commissioner feedback? The only staff report I had was the volunteer event, so thank you for sharing that. And the outreach calendar, so.
Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Wonderful.
Second.
Okay, fabulous.
Perfect.
Anyone opposed? Okay, then the meeting has ended.
I think we got how many minutes back?
It was
5 minutes.
It was